welcome to another edition of Behind the Small Business Podcast with me, as always, your host, Kevin Dandino. More than happy to be with you here once again today. And this show is brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency. So if you're looking for a quote for insurance, either personal or commercial, please reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help you out and see if we can get you a quote started today. Today, I have an awesome guest, Katie Sorensen from Weight Loss NP. She has a fantastic story. I'm excited to get to know her a little bit better and talk to her. Katie, how are you doing today?
Hey, Kevin, I'm great. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Certainly appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. You know, we just finished up the Memorial Day weekend, a little bit rainy out here, but sounds like you had a good weekend and we're all back into business, right?
That's right. Yeah. And before we hit record, I thanked Kevin for his Air Force service. I don't know if all your guests know about that. So,
well, thank you very much. I do really appreciate that. Well, seriously, it's looking through your website and seeing a lot of the about us and the services we provide. It looks like you have a lot of things that you guys do. So before we get into all of that, which is going to be a fascinating story, let's learn more about you. Tell us about who you are, what your journey has been, and what got you into wanting to be a business owner and leading to standing up Weight Loss NP.
Yeah, sounds great. So I'm a nurse practitioner and spent about a decade as a primary care provider in just kind of system-based medicine. I worked at a practice called New West Physicians. We got bought up by Optum. And it was in the season of the pandemic. So we kind of moved through the pandemic, and then Optum started making their many changes, and I started feeling more like a cog in their huge wheel, to kind of serve their bottom line more than to serve my patients. And that was not what I was after. And so it was a time of kind of reflection and like, hey, I actually want to get back to some of my roots and my dreams. As a kid, I was always like very entrepreneurial. I would have baking businesses with brochures I would pass around, and came up with some silly like toothpaste thing.
So it's in your blood.
Yeah, all kinds of good stuff. But always been really like entrepreneurial spirited. And so when I realized it was time for me to get out of that sort of system-based healthcare, it was a great time for me to get back to that entrepreneurial part of myself and open a practice of my own, which was always kind of the plan when I went to nurse practitioner school.
Gotcha. Well, that's fascinating, to go through that experience. First off, just being in the medical field in general during the pandemic there. Very stressful, I mean, I can't imagine the kind of things you were dealing with there. But then to move forward past that and recognize your strengths and looking back at your past, you're saying all this self-reflection. So how hard was it for you to kind of make that leap, and take that leap of faith and saying, you know what, I'm going to leave the comfort of a stable job here and go to what I think is more of my calling, even though it's more of a risk? What was that like?
Yeah, that's a tough decision. I think it's something that holds a lot of people back that would love to own their own business and kind of be their own boss. I think, those golden handcuffs, they call them, which are really true, where you get a regular paycheck and you kind of show up and do your thing and then you leave and you're not responsible to actually like get the patients in the door. Right. And that is intimidating, right? Like I didn't go to business school. I went, my undergrad was a bachelor in science and nursing. I worked as a registered nurse in the hospital for, 4 years before I went back to nurse practitioner school. We didn't have one single business class. So it was all self-taught, and thank goodness I've always had a passion for it, because that certainly helps when you're trying to learn and grow as a business person. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts, try a lot of things. And one thing that kind of helped along the way is when I was working as a nurse practitioner in more, traditional healthcare, I also had like a small real estate side business with my husband where we did like fix and flips. And eventually I got my real estate license. So that kind of started a lot of like business learning while I was still in the golden handcuffs, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, that's a smart idea, because it is, you're right. A lot of people don't take that leap because of the statistics that show business is one of the first 1 to 5 to 10 years, it's an uphill battle. Um,
For sure.
so to have that experience of being able to still stay with your profession, but then have this transition period where you're
Yes.
able to pick up some of that, that's something that a lot of people maybe not aren't able to have. But like you said, the biggest thing was sticking with your passion there, right? So, um,
Yeah.
how
And I
how
think
did you? Yeah, go for it.
it's just great to, yeah, take the leap, and I always am like
Yeah,
a cheerleader for anyone who wants to become a business owner. I just think it's so important. And I think it's definitely one of those things like at end of life, if it was on your heart and you didn't do it, I think it would be a regret, right? They say that we regret things that we didn't do more than we did. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I'm always a cheerleader for anyone who wants to start their own business to like really, do some groundwork, like make sure you know what you're getting into. But if it's on your heart, like take the leap, right? And thankfully, there are a lot of good resources out there and information so accessible to us nowadays that it's, at our fingertips to learn and to grow and to know how to market and how to stand
yeah,
up a business. And, not saying it's easy, but I do think it's worth it if it's something that someone, is interested in. So,
yeah. And a lot of it is that passion that you talked about, and I
yeah.
definitely want to drill into that a little bit more in a bit. But first, I kind of want to hear more about your business right now, Weight Loss NP, and kind of explain to everybody that's watching or listening. What is it that you provide? What is your approach? What is it that makes this something that you're just so passionate about, and what do you provide to people?
Yeah. So we're in our fourth year of service, and
Oh, congratulations!
thanks. It's myself and four other providers that I've met kind of along my way who are amazing, friends and colleagues, great at what they do. And we specialize in metabolic health. So we help people improve their blood sugar, improve the way that their body uses energy from food, and to make sure it's using it appropriately and optimally so that you feel your best. And that gets into things like helping people stop prediabetes going into diabetes, helping people
Right.
optimize diabetes if they are officially diagnosed with that, really optimize it, and getting their blood sugars at goal and even sometimes in the normal range again. We've cured a lot of people's prediabetes, gotten them back to just normal metabolic health. Um, we help people with weight loss to avoid like that whole march down the line of metabolic diagnoses. So we help people lose weight, small and big goal numbers, and we use the very latest medical resources to help people do so. And those kind of include all the buzzy words that people know about nowadays, like Ozempic and Wegovy, GLP-1 weight loss injections, which really
Sure.
are kind of game changing. It's a big part of the reason I started doing this business is because they were approved for weight loss specifically outside of diabetes right before
Yeah.
I opened the practice, and I saw the great potential of them. So,
Sure. Okay.
yeah.
I think that's that, not to diminish somebody owning a restaurant. That provides a
Sure.
very specific service. You can be a huge part of the community and everything like that. But
Yeah.
hearing this kind of story and the services you provide, life changing to many people. It sounds like,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah. It's so fun.
but
It's
it's
so rewarding.
I believe it, but it's got
Yeah.
to be a tough journey for the person on the other side of the table there. And so,
Yes.
maybe for people that it seems like it's just too much work, or there's other things holding them back. How do you handle or approach just the clientele you have and helping them through that?
Great question. We Most of us as providers have been there. Most of us are moms. We have done the whole postpartum weight loss thing and sometimes even bigger struggles than that. And we know both from a medical provider basis and a personal basis that weight loss is stinking hard. It is hard. And there's biological, physiological reasons that make it hard. It's not just about, hey, you don't have enough willpower or you don't know how to grocery shop or, you got to just follow these recipes. It's really just not all these things that we've been told for decades and decades, right?
Sure.
And I think the medical science is finally catching up to that. I think as healthcare providers, we didn't have good tools until recently to really help people lose weight in a meaningful way. And
Mhm.
so not, I think I did a better job, but you know how I'm saying. The medical profession was left to just kind of blame it on the person, be like, it's your fault, hey, you just got to do a better job. And that was like all we could say, which was no good,
Right. Yeah.
no good at all. So, I spent my years as a primary care provider, certainly trying to help people lose weight and, giving them all the tools that we had at the time, like, phentermine still exists and it's okay. It's a tool. There's some other medicines that existed before these GLP-1s, but none of them were nearly as impactful. And
Right.
so, we left with like a lot of people just not reaching their goals, which stinks for them and for us as healthcare providers. Like, we
Yeah.
want to see people improve their health. And that's our huge motivation. And so, um, when these medications were approved for weight loss and kind of knew the potential for that, I was super excited to really help people in a biological, physiological way improve the way their cells use blood sugar so that their body's not working against them to be
Yeah.
able to lose weight. Because it's true, like, your body works against you to avoid weight loss because that's how it's designed, right? And so we're able now with medicine and science to kind of stop that vicious cycle, reverse it, and unlock the key to allow for weight loss in a more physiologically friendly environment. Not saying that good lifestyle choices, diet, exercise, all that stuff, it does come into play. And we,
Sure. Sure.
are absolutely good educators, good guides on that in a supportive fashion.
Right.
Um, because we want people's weight loss to stick, and we want them, if possible, to come off of the medications and be able to have their weight, be healthy long term. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we take a really like personalized approach and, walk with a person. It's definitely a relationship. And we see our panel of patients see that clinician, like myself or one of our other providers, like every single time. And they have direct access to us via patient portal messages. And it becomes a really like great relationship because we get to know them so well. And I think that helps us help them to be really successful. And it's so fun to see them succeed. That's the best part of our
Yeah.
jobs, no doubt.
I bet. I
Yeah.
bet. And I
It
think it's really good to hear the personal side of things, because for a lot of people, there's probably their fear of judgment, um,
yeah.
feels their feelings of, I'm a failure, and just how am I ever going to get out of this? Like, it's impossible, and it probably keeps them from going to get help, because for a lot of people, it's easier to just live in their current situation, than risk going out there to get judged or belittled, or, made to feel worse about how they are than they already do.
Oh my
So
gosh.
to
Yes.
take that step, and to provide that, I think is just something that is really beneficial for people to hear, and again, exudes your passion and everything
Yeah.
like that. So that's great.
Yeah. I think it's kind of reminds me of the conversation we were having about taking the leap to own a business, right?
Yeah.
Like any big change in your life, whether it's that professionally making a job change, or if it's getting your health in order and making that one of your top priorities, like, it still requires this like massive change in momentum and it's scary. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would
Understandable.
say we're really good at kind of making sure we're meeting people where they're at. We're really passionate about being like judgment free. We don't expect people to abide by healthy lifestyles 100% of the time. We often talk about, hey, it's like 80 to 85% of the time. And, 15
Mhm.
to 20, you can be off track. And there's absolutely no problem with that. No judgment. And so, yeah, that's kind of our approach.
I love it. I love it. Well, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about the business side of things too. Especially your story and your journey of kind of self-teaching. And you have people out there that have business degrees that have failing businesses. And then you have people out there that's never had a business class that have very successful businesses, right? So it's kind of tough to say, like, you have to have business education, formal education, to be successful. But with that, what kind of challenges did you face, when it came to the business education and edification to be able to run a business consistently well? What is that like, and what struggles did you have there?
Yeah, great question. I think I had kind of my training wheel business while I still was working a day job,
Sure.
and that helped a lot. It helped me learn just like logistics, like how do you register a business? How do you get insurance for it? How do you keep books properly? How do you market? Um, all these things, finding out what your customer wants and how do you target to them. So much to learn. And I think when I was in the early phases, of that business and my weight loss NP practice, I could literally feel like two different sides of my brain working. Like when
Yeah.
I was working on my real estate business, I was using like one part of my brain, and then I could very distinctly like feel the shift when I walked into my medical practice, like using a different part of my brain. And that's probably like nerdy healthcare person like talk, but I could really feel it. So
Yeah.
I think just having the courage to like learn a new skill, whether that be professionally or just in your life, is just always an awesome thing. It activates different parts of your brain. It's so healthy for you. It's a great thing you can do for yourself, as a person and as a body. So
Sure.
yeah. What challenges though? It's a lot to, I think just learning is overwhelming
I
to
bet.
learn that much. And when it's all completely new, it's going to take a lot more energy and output to figure it out and to move through steps that if someone maybe was taught that or like was really familiar with that or did it for different businesses in their business career, it wouldn't be as like energy involved. It would be more straightforward for that person. Um, but I think just you got to kind of keep moving. You got to know that it's a process and you got to
Mhm.
learn and just be patient with yourself and one step at a time. Um,
Sure. I think that patience part is probably really tough, especially when it's a new business is so fragile, right? And your every decision is kind of like, is this going to take me one way or the other? And it's you kind of want an instantaneous answer to say, is this the right course of action or not, right? But then to allow things to play out, because I'm talking to other business owners, there are times where through decisions and tough times, things start looking rough, and it's very probably easy during those times to say, you know what, we gave it a try, we're done, versus try to push through it. And that's where people seem to really find success, is when they push through that. um, so it sounds like probably something similar to what you faced. Obviously that middle ground you kind of had there for a while definitely helped as a cushion. But
yeah.
now that you're sitting here kind of as 4 years in, established business, what kind of advice would you maybe give to and somebody who wants to start their own business, or has just started theirs?
Yeah. Yeah. I think patience with yourself as you're learning new things and trying new things, allow yourself to iterate, to try different versions of your ideas, to think outside of the box and try, wild ideas. I think sometimes, like you said, sometimes people without the formal business training do better because they might allow their own creativity to come through more than someone who is more classically trained. And
Hmm.
perhaps that's some of it.
Sure.
And I think there's always going to be stressful times as a business owner. Like you feel responsible for, your clientele, your employees, and you want to obviously like have a great offering for everybody involved. And so that comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress. And I think just knowing, hey, sometimes it's going to be stressful, but trying to roll with it. I think that's something I'm definitely still trying to work on. Um,
Mm.
in the weight loss practice space right now, there lately has been like a lot of regulatory changes with the medications and kind of the patents and how we can supply the meds. And it's been really
Right.
stressful, in all
Sure.
transparency. But I think I'm really trying to be patient with the situation and also just know that like I just, we have to move through and we have to try to make the best decisions with the scenario at hand, whatever that might be. As time passes, there's always going to be some sort of scenario you're working on, and try to just like have faith that it will unfold and you will make the best decision with information that unfolds at each increment of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good for business owners to hear other people talk frankly about those kinds of things, because it's probably easy to look at other business owners and say, man, it looks like they have everything together and they're just like, how are they doing everything, and it doesn't seem like they're ever stressed, and it
Yeah.
feels like, am I the only one struggling here? So I think it's good to get out, like, look, this is something that everybody's dealing with, and I think having that sense of community, um, whether it's through networking or other things, it really helps bolster that. So, as you go through this, what kind of resources have you built for yourself, whether through networking or just people you've met along the way, other things have you used to help you through that?
Yeah. So I am super active in like Facebook groups, a lot of like women in business groups I'm really active
Yeah.
in, and have found friendship and support through other business owners in Colorado in our community. Um, and I think when you find people that are similar in goals and in life, that they maybe have their own business, like you want to support other people in similar situations. And so they're a sounding board, they're great like referral sources. They talk about your business to their friends and their family, and when they see opportunities to put their friends stuff out there, they do. And I think that's invaluable, really. um, Other things I like to do are like local media meetups. We have this Arvada Women in Entrepreneurship
Okay.
meeting that we meet like every 6 weeks or so, and that's really fun. We kind of rotate around people's like businesses to meet at and see what they're up to. They give us like a
Wow.
little chat about anything going on in their life or their business, and
Hmm.
we might give input on if something seems helpful that we might be able to share for them, and vice versa. And then it's again just getting around people that have similar struggles and joys as you do and goals. So I think that's really
Yeah.
invaluable, is to create a community around yourself, whether it's in person, which is awesome, but sometimes a time challenge, or virtually. We have those tools now too, where we can absolutely do it virtually in a meaningful way.
Hmm. You hit a huge part right there, and it's that time concern, right?
Mhm.
Again, I think business owners maybe sometimes get too caught up in the paperwork and the minutia and just the little things that they have to do every single day to keep their business running, that it can be very easy to overlook that part of the community and networking and having people that you can go to, right? But it seems like every business owner that I talk to here is says that this is something is vital to your success. It doesn't have to be the same exact thing, but whether it's Facebook groups or in-person meetings or whatever, providing that support is critical, it seems like.
I think so too. And it's kind of something that gives to you personally in relationships, and getting unchained from your desk. That's something
Mhm.
I struggle with for sure as a business owner, is like, why am I sitting at this dumb desk all day long? That was like part of the reason I wanted to own my own business in the first place. Yeah, it's dumb. But I think,
Yeah,
it's
no, I
a work
understand.
in progress. And you have to, I think also as a business owner, like we make up there's always something to work on, right? There's always some sort of
Yeah.
project, something that you want to try or to work on. And so like the day is kind of never done. And you hear that when before you start, but you don't really believe it. Um, so I think you have to put boundaries on yourself. Like, I don't need to solve every problem. I don't need to solve every single thing or try every single thing today. I can
Right.
have boundaries and make it a process, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you had a boss, you wouldn't expect them to give you a due date of right now for every single thing they want you to do.
Sure, exactly.
You know? It's like, why would
That's
you
a
do
good
that
way
to
to put it.
yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think it's been one of my goals this year, and I've enjoyed it, to get out and do more in-person networking
Yeah.
events. And it's given back to me as a person, but also to my business. It really does help having other people speak to other people about your business. It helps tremendously. And so it is a worthy investment on both levels.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're talking about finding, setting those boundaries, and like, something else we were talking about before the show. You're a mom, you have
Yeah.
kids, and that alone is a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
So finding that balance and those boundaries there are huge. So, how do you balance those two things other than just setting the boundaries and stuff? What other pieces of advice do you have, or what things do you utilize to kind of help with that stress?
Yeah. I try to feed my brain information that like is aligned with my like ideal goals, right? So you
Mhm.
know, I read this book by Dan Martell recently, and it kind of talked about like how do you try to be more efficient with your just like your business and how you don't always have to be so like strung to your desk. I listen to a podcast from Kathy Heller regularly that is kind of spiritually based, and she's a mom and a business owner. And so I think that is, really helpful. That book is called Buy Back Your Time. I had to refresh my memory on it.
Oh, there you go.
Um, yeah. So that was that, had some good tips. I try to like feed myself this stuff to remind myself like, hey, the reason I started this business is to serve my patients really well, to make an impact on their health and their lives. And also so I can be a more present mom. And so if I'm not like taking steps to do the thing to be present for my family, then it was not the point, right? And so try to remind myself of these values and these things, strategies to make sure I'm living out what I saw for the vision in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's wise. And some pretty sound advice too that I think is really beneficial.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is really important for business owners is that idea of not just networking and building your network up, but also community involvement. Um, and kind of transitioning this topic here from as busy as you are as a business owner and a parent and all these other things going on in your life, still finding at least a little time to be involved in your community in a way that is meaningful to you, right? So I know we were talking about this before the show, and it sounded like you had some really good examples of how somebody who's just really busy in life in general could still be involved in their community, and use that, to their benefit and to the community's benefit as well. So, kind of what were those things, and what is that like to do those things while you're still being a business owner and juggling all of that?
So I think, there's kind of this notion that you get more from giving than from receiving.
Sure,
And I think
sure.
that is so true. It like feeds our soul so much to give and to volunteer your time or your talent to others. And so it's a great way to improve your mental health and to improve kind of just your life is to give back to your community, to give from your time and your talent and your treasure. And those are things I want to teach my children as well. And you can't really effectively teach your children without actually doing and showing them that you have this part in your life as well. So they love volunteering. We seek out opportunities several times a year to take them to certain things where we can make sandwiches for the homeless, or we packed like
Mm.
the beans and rice and like vitamins for a community in Africa. Like one year they loved it. They still
Wow.
talk about it. Um, just anything like that. And then,
Yeah.
and I love doing it too. It's so fun. I like love to see how many sandwiches I can get through in 2
For
hours.
sure. No, that makes sense.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've been personally working on trying to help a community of amazing people stand up this nonprofit called Love Inc. that's involved in different areas nationwide. And like there's a great chapter in Littleton, helping them stand a chapter up in Arvada lately. So that's been
Hmm.
something that I've been enjoying trying to help them with, getting their board members hired and elected, all those things.
Wow. That's a lot, and it doesn't sound maybe like a lot if you look at it on paper, but to go out of your way, and to make time to give back is huge, and it can just be the littlest things can have the largest impacts, right? So,
Yeah.
message that I always try to push out to business owners through stories like yours and examples like yours is find some time. It's so meaningful, and yeah, you'll walk away feeling better about yourself then too. So it is
Mhm.
kind of a win-win all around the board there. So, no, I
That's right.
definitely appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's very important for people to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's a two-way street for sure. You get more than you give, I think is very true.
Yeah, I like it. Well,
Yeah.
Katie, seriously, appreciate you sharing all your stories and everything today and walking us through everything. I definitely want to give you a little bit of time here at the end before we wrap everything up to, again, let everybody know how they can find you, any other information that you want them to know about you guys, and just take it away from there.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity. So, we would love to help anybody that wants to improve their life by improving their health, which is so many of us. Um, we help people with weight loss medically. And we also just are launching a testosterone replacement therapy treatment line here soon. So,
Very cool.
come check us out. Our website's the
Yeah.
WLNP.com. You can also follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We give monthly freebies out, like 4-week meal plans that are dietitian created and super
Nice.
easy, delicious recipes. There's also a link for that on our website. So freebies are, monthly at least and abound. So at least check us out for that. If not, we do free consults as well. So if you have any inkling that, hey, like I would like to embark on a health journey and, feel more like myself through better living, feel more energetic, more strong, healthier, we would love to be a part of your journey. So book a free consult.
Love it. Well, seriously, once again, Katie, thank you very much. Everybody out there, Katie Sorensen, owner of Weight Loss NP. Definitely check them out if you're looking to start a journey of your own. Great professionals over there. You're going to be welcome. You're going to be taken care of. And so, Katie, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Well, everyone, this is another episode of Behind the Small Business, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Please make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button for us. Tell all your friends. And this is, of course, an open invitation to all business owners out there. If you know of a small business owner that would like to be featured on our podcast here, please reach out to us on any of our social medias. Be more than happy to get in touch with you and set up a time for a recording to have you on as well. Again, it's brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency. So reach out to us if you're looking for a personal or commercial quote. Be more than happy to get you taken care of. But with that all being said, we'll wrap this up here and give Katie the rest of her day back and get back to business. So take care, everyone, and we will see you next time on another episode of Behind the Small Business. Take care, everyone.